Bro, people don't even understand. It's
Yeah.
like we are
They don't.
live. They have no idea, Mr. Jeff Frady. Listen, I told the people at 1:00 that are gonna hear the pod later that we're doing content. So you guys are gonna get the content a little earlier today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay.
I love this off script, just Pistons talk.
I
Right after the
love it.
show, hop up in Studio B. My guys here, Kool-Aid,
As
ready to
always.
chop it up. I didn't get to any Pistons talk on the show, quite frankly, because we'll save it for Woodward Pistons. How about that? That's the real reason. We didn't get to any prospects. We didn't get to, a lot of the stuff we talked about with James on From Half Court. You can go watch that. Shout out to Sean and Troy for that. Sean got the hook up to James. James is a great guy, by the way. Does great work.
Great guy.
Very well spoken, and appreciate his insight. And he spoke a lot yesterday about just prospects, Monty, the story, a lot of stuff you probably know of too, and you speak a lot with Rod about. But man, it's an exciting time. I feel like, and I said this on the pod yesterday, I feel like we're slowly putting the puzzle pieces together, and soon we'll have Monty's press conference is next week?
Yeah, it's funny, man. When Monty was first announced, I hit up Pistons PR last week, and I'm like, look, yeah, we're gonna get everything together next week.
Right.
Then when Steven Silas was signed, I feel like they're gonna push this thing potentially to next week now. Just introduce them both together,
which will be great.
Yeah.
By the way, on the Steven Silas hire, Kevin Young, who at first I imagine he would have been the top assistant, but Suns kept him. They made him one of the highest paid assistants in the NBA, if not the highest paid. I'm not sure about that math. He stays there, but you get Steven Silas, who, again, Steven Silas, Monty, Dwayne Casey, a lot of head coach experience with the Pistons, a lot of knowledge. So it's a good thing.
I like it. I mean, look, we did the graphic on Woodward Pistons socials that shows kind of the head coaching experience in the NBA, in the Pistons organization.
Right.
From Dwayne Casey to John Beilein to now the battery of head coach and assistant coach of Monty Williams and Steven Silas. And honestly, I asked Rod this question as well, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think, what players or positions or what on this team is going to benefit the most from having Monty and Steven here?
I think the obvious one would be the guards, because with Monty Williams, you look at his history in the NBA as a coach. He's been with Chris Paul in New Orleans. He's been with Russell Westbrook in OKC as an assistant. And he's been with now Devin Booker and Chris Paul again. And you've seen the comments about Chris Paul talking about how much Monty meant to him in his career. But also, and I would know this more than a lot of people because Devin Booker is one of my favorite, if not my favorite player in the NBA to watch. So I've been a huge fan of Devin for quite some time. And to see his growth with Monty Williams from being a player who was uber talented, put up a lot of stats, one of the best two-guard scorers, in the NBA, or in especially at his age. He was 25, 24 at the time. And seeing his growth with Monty Williams as not only that dude, but a winner, and him playing well in the playoffs. I'm not saying it's all because of Monty, but you've seen the growth with Devin. So I would say easily the position group you look at would have to be the guards, have to be Ivy and Cade. And again, James brought this up yesterday on the pod, which is a great point. I didn't even think about this. It's more than just the guards. You look at play style, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. They love the mid-range.
Talk about it, bro. Talk about it.
Cade Cunningham, another guy who loves the mid-range. I think with the offense, the 0.5 offense, that philosophy, it's more than just the guards. I think play style, it'll benefit Cade and Jaden Ivey as well. So
I was only chuckling because Rod and I, we kind of got into similar types of talks, how we see this is going to benefit a lot more guys than just the guards. It's about play style.
Absolutely.
I think that was what was really important about Troy Weaver saying that he would go with 5 creatives on the court at all times. He didn't necessarily say guards or bigs. And when you look at guys like some of the names that they're rumored to be after in free agency, when you look at guys like Isaiah Stewart, who's taken a leap forward in terms of his versatility on the court, ball handling, playmaking. When you look at a guy like Duran, we talk about his ability to playmake. We see his basketball IQ there.
Yeah.
I think that bodes very, very well because we talked about getting this team in the ability to kind of utilize their speed, their athleticism, and the spacing. If Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham can do what they do, get into the spacing, we need to make sure that this whole team is not just relying on like their raw talent, their raw skill to get them there, but that the coaches are putting them in their best positions to kind of take advantage of all of that. And so that's what I look forward to the most with Silas, with Monty Williams. And honestly, let's talk about the sportingnews.com and shout out to boston.com. They had a lot of great things to say about Steven Silas when he was being hired by Houston. And they consistently talked about his offensive ingenuity, his ability to kind of create this awesome relationship or be this guard whisperer with some of the best guards in the NBA's last 10, 15, 20 years. Shout out to D-Mac, Darren McCarty, man.
D-Mac.
Shout out to him. And
The
they
legend.
It's a legend, absolute legend, bro. Hall of Fame, 4 Stanley Cups. And honestly, somehow a better human being than any of his skills. Like, I don't get it, but if you ever get the opportunity to meet Darren, hey, he's a good guy.
And real quick, correct me if I'm wrong. Steven Silas, he worked with Luka, right? He was with the Mavericks.
That's
was
where
that
we're
the
going.
time frame Luka was there?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because the guards that are listed here in the Sporting News, Luka Doncic, Stephen Curry, Kemba Walker, he worked with these guys before even some of these guys became who they were. And these guys credit Steven Silas with having helped them take the next step in their careers. And I love that when we're talking about guys like Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham and even Killian Hayes. I think that these coaching hires can help to unlock him if he's somebody that's on this roster moving forward. I shared this on the pod with Rod as well, but Mark Jones of ESPN, he kind of tweeted out something when the hiring was going on, showing Luka Doncic and Steven Silas kind of side by side on the sidelines going over film. I don't know if y'all can quite see it there. It's them there going over film. And it's just awesome because we went crazy when we saw Charles Lee and Giannis going over film on the sideline. This is Luka Doncic, a guy who Cade Cunningham himself has said, I've modeled my game to some degrees after Luka Doncic as well. I've looked at him. I think that we have very, very similar play styles, I believe is what Cade actually stated. And so that just excites me, man. I like the pedigree they have. I like the ability to bring in guys and kind of do what we stated. We said if they were going to make a change at coach or augment KC staff, we wanted to be people who could come in and not just inspire defense, but on the offensive end, bring some type of wrinkles, some X's and O's to kind of give us a more modern NBA type of offense. And you're right, man. Look at all of the guys they've had, including like the guys they've revived, like Campaign. I don't know, man. I had the Troy Weaver buffs out today, the Trust and Troy shades. You know what I mean? Because for real, we were just sitting here listening to people talk about Pistons aren't hiring or even meeting with anybody with NBA coaching experience, and now they got 2 head coaches as their head coach and assistant coach.
Which proves it was never about not getting a coach with no experience. It was about these are our options. This is what we have to pick from. We didn't know Monty was a realistic possibility till Tom Gores put his foot down and said, I'm doing everything in my power to get him.
Well, young sir.
So
maybe he wasn't a real possibility. But the one thing we always talk about, young Jeffrey. I'm channeling my inner Terry Foster right now.
Inner Rod too. I feel like Rod does this too.
Yeah. Look, well, we've talked about this, bro. The connections.
Right.
How many times do you think people thought it was cheesy when we talked about who Troy Weaver was? His connections, being out there on the AAU circuit, being within the fabric of business of basketball, not just NBA. I'm talking about from college to AAU to all the different circuits, all the little prospects and scouting and all of this. This is what Troy Weaver is. So then that would mean when you look at these guys, right? Let's put it this way. Monty Williams and Troy Weaver, do they have a connection? Snap. Steven Silas and Troy Weaver. Steven Silas and Monty Williams. Because they stole Monty Williams. I mean, they stole Steven Silas from Boston. He was going to sign.
He was already
That's
prepped
the
up.
report. The Boston.com put Pistons stole our top target. That's their paper saying that. Because of the relationship. Jeremy Grant came here because of the relationship. Why are Cam Johnson and Jeremy Grant, by reporter James Edwards now? Why are those the names? Relationships.
And fit.
Who was Cam Johnson linked to when he first came into the league? Monty Williams. Relationship. Jeremy Grant, Troy Weaver. This is awesome because we keep talking about the basketball room, right? We talked about the fact that our room right now, in terms of front office, the coaches, even the players, they're so like their basketball IQ is so good to me that it's the best thing for an owner like Tom Gores. Now you can trust that when your guys point you in the direction of sign that coach or sign that player, you know it's not going to wind up being Larry Frank and Josh Smith. Like you know that. And that's the thing. It's like Tom Gores, when he first was here, his basketball room was I'm not going to say the worst, but it was not conducive. He got better with SVG, got better with Dwayne Casey, but where things sit right now, man, oh man, I can't wait to see where they go. This Monty Williams thing and Steven Silas, I don't want people to downplay that.
No.
At all. I don't.
No, it's significant.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you something before we get to free agency, man. Now we do free agency first. We'll do free agency because Cam Johnson, Jeremy Grant, it seems to be kind of this topic that is brewing, especially now that the reports have stated that the Pistons actually might be looking that way. And we have to preface this. We see reports all the time. Rarely what's reported is what Troy Weaver actually does.
Right.
We can take the coaching search as the latest kind of a example of that. But if it is Cam Johnson, Jeremy Grant, brother, how are you feeling about that?
I love it. I love it. And I tried to make this argument on the show even before the reports were out. And I'm not trying to say I'm Nostradamus. I think everyone acknowledges that wings that can shoot,
You're too humble, Jeff.
and play defense.
You're too humble, bro.
That's what it's about. And I think we've been talking about this for months. It's like, what's the biggest free agency or just offseason target in general, draft and free agency? It's a wing who preferably is interchangeable, can play the 3 or the 4, and can shoot and can be at least a high level or respectable perimeter defender. And Cam Johnson, although Jeremy's better defensively than Cam, both can shoot. Both shot, I believe Cam was close to, if not 40% from 3 last year, and Jeremy was damn near. He was 40% on like 6 attempts.
Yep.
So, and people like to tell me, Jeff, why would you want Jeremy Grant back? When he was here, he was a ball stopper. He was hogging the ball. And this is what we bring this up on the show. What are you asked to do?
Talk about it.
And Jeremy Grant was asked to be that dude when he was here. That was his role. Now Cade came.
Sound like Rod this morning.
Was he preaching?
He was saying the same
Thank
thing.
goodness.
That usage and role, it played a factor.
Very different.
And the lack of talent around him.
Absolutely. And Jeremy had to play hero ball. Now, when Cade started, playing well the second half of the season, Jeremy did take a little bit of a step back there. So
wait. Did that correlate to better winning?
They were about
they jumped about 230% winning increase. Almost.
They were about 500 after the All-Star break. So you look at roles and those like Bojan, for example. Bojan's not going to be the same Bojan he was last season. He's going to be more of a what Bojan really should be and what he was for most of his career, which is, when the opportunity arises, he can take shots, but mostly he'll be playing off ball. Last year, the ball was in Bojan's hands a lot more. It's not going to be the case this year with Cade and Jaden. So I'm all for
just a little.
You said what?
That scares me just a little with Bojan.
That it won't be in his hands?
Because I with it in his hands, you can justify it. If he's going to wind up becoming a glorified 3-point shooter, then I'm hoping a signing of Jeremy Grant or Cam Johnson honestly makes Bojan very, very expendable.
It does.
That's what I'm hoping.
And James did bring up on the pod, and I'm not saying he says he will be traded, but James says I wouldn't be shocked if Bojan was traded by the season. I think we'd all agree there. Bojan's probably the guy. None of us would be shocked if he was traded, but certainly I wouldn't mind keeping him. I mean, if he can get you 16 off your bench, 17 on damn near 40% from 3, even though he's a liability defensively, Burks, Bojan, you got pieces and you got some veterans. So
talk about it.
I don't think they have to do a ton this offseason. They don't have to go, turn the entire roster over. But if you go add a Jeremy Grant or a Cam Johnson and your 5th overall pick, your draft, it'll be most likely a wing. Now this team looks a lot better. You maybe sign a backup guard. Like there's a couple of things the Pistons need to do. But even with Monty, we saw what he did the first year it was in Phoenix. It was instant. It was 19 wins to 34 wins. Not saying you'll double your win total, and I said this too, with or without Monty, this team should be at least 30 wins. So with Monty, it makes those expectations even more realistic. It does.
Yep. And I think that 30 honestly is the safe place to put this. I'm not going to be surprised if I saw the team, honestly, based on what they do in free agency and the draft, have a squad that can honestly go out there and run some teams. We're talking about putting some guys. When you ask fans individually, they're all sitting there like, yeah, K gonna average 20 points and 8 assists, and Ivy gonna average like 18 and 8, and it's like, and they gonna be sucking next year?
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Duran's gonna be this, and like, do you understand how good that team is supposed to be? Like, do you realize that? And if they add some other components to this squad, they have to be a team that realistically 30 wins minimum. We have to reset the team minimum, but I'm not going to be shocked if we see them starting to really, really flirt with that play-in tournament.
Yeah, and I won't deny. I think it'll be a rough start just because Cade and Jaden it'll be their first full season together. So maybe some of that figuring that out to start. I mean, they did give Monty a damn near 8-year contract. So like there's basically saying you got plenty of time. So I don't want to act like they'll take a huge step forward next year, but you expect some sort of step, especially you add veterans. And the biggest thing for this team to improve, I think offensively, I'm not as worried. It's defensively. Defensively, they have to improve. And I think having Cade back, they'll get better defensively. Ivy wasn't the defender the second half of the season because more was on his plate offensively. But in this season, when you have Cade and you got more talent, I think Ivy is going to go back to what we saw at the beginning, which he was solid defensively.
He's focusing on it too.
Absolutely. And Troy did challenge him. You got Duran, who we know is a really good defender. And then if you sign a Cam Johnson, a Jeremy, hell, even a Jay Crowder, you get veterans. I saw Kyle Kuzma being floated around as well. I wouldn't mind Kyle Kuzma. You just get better on the wing defensively. And depending on who that 5th overall pick is, yeah, they get better defensively. The wins should come. Offensively, they started figuring it out. They just gave up 120 points a game last year, and it just didn't really matter. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I saw. I got a question here about what are the chances that we sign Kuzma? I don't think Kuzma's a bad option. I just don't know if he would come underneath. For me personally, Cam Johnson, Jeremy Grant.
I would agree with that.
That
I would agree
tier
with that.
just underneath. So if we strike out there, then yes, there's a lot of players kind of in that tier that I still think can contribute, especially if we're saying that. Shout out, Mr. Adam Baydoun. Especially if we're talking about the triumvirate of Ivy, Cade, and Duran being,
because you want reliability,
exactly,
shooting wise.
You still want
Kuzma's not super efficient, but he can get hot at times. But you talk about reliability and what the Suns had with Monty with Phoenix. Why it worked in Phoenix? You had Chris Paul, you had Devin Booker, but you also had Mikal Bridges, you also had Cam Johnson. Like, you had guys that can space the floor. They had Torrey Craig coming off the bench, who was pretty solid as well. Wouldn't hate it that they signed him. But that's why it works, because Devin and Chris can live in the mid-range, can create their own shot, but you have options like a Cam, like a Mikal. Pistons got to find those guys. And maybe it's Cam this offseason, but whoever they draft at 5 also has to fit that mold. You got to be able to shoot and defend.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Points, man. Jared Beck was asking, why are we trying to sign mid players? Cam and Grant don't change our win-loss record.
Well, let me ask you something, okay?
You go first. Yeah.
So the question is, why are we trying to sign mid players? Cam and Grant doesn't change anything. Well, I disagree with that completely. But the first point, why are we signing mid players? So let me ask you something. You look at free agency this year. Who's not mid? James Harden? Do you want James Harden? Do you want Kyrie Irving? Those guys aren't mid, but they don't fit. That's not who you're looking for. The players you want, the wings out in free agency, there's not a Kevin Durant. There's not a Jason Tatum in free agency. There just isn't. So by default, you look for the best options. Cam, Jeremy Grant, both good options. Both can get you 17 points on pretty efficient field goal percentages. What are we looking for? Everyone's looking for a Jason Tatum in free agency. It's not there. You got to go trade for that player, and the Pistons are not in a position to do that right now. So we're talking about the best options in playing a position that the Pistons need, and the first thing you can think of is their mid. It's like, come on, man. Shoot, Jeremy Grant. Well, that's what frustrates me. What is a mid?
Bro, look, tune in that one. We went over Jeremy Grant and the improvements. I think a lot of people are trying to, they're making these determinations off of the beginning of Jeremy Grant's tenure in Detroit, and not the growth we saw him make before he left Detroit, when he became a 36% three-point shooter, as well as the player we saw him be in Denver. If we're going to just judge him off of 2 years, almost like a year and a half of Detroit, and just ignore the way he fit seamlessly with Denver and was their best defensive player, and then the way he fit seamlessly with the Blazers and was one of their best three-point shooters and their best defensive player, what are we doing?
You know what? I'm glad you brought up the Nuggets. Let me ask you something, okay? The Nuggets built their team organically. You have Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. But let me ask you something. Would you say KCP's mid? Would you say Aaron Gordon's mid?
Like Jeff.
Would you say Bruce Brown's mid? Because if you're going to say those guys are mid, then you're saying they don't contribute to a championship? Yes, they do. Ivy and Cade, this team's centered around those two. If those two hit what we think they'll be, which is superstar, all-star talent, then yes, you'll get there. But you need a cast of players around them that can play. Like, stop with this mid talk, man. You can't have 5 all-stars, superstars on a team. You need guys that can excel at their roles, and Denver has a handful of them. So if you don't want to be like Denver, that's fair. I would like to. So I'm disagreeing with you. But we can have different opinions.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's it.
Like, come on, man.
I had something to say. Jeff handled it. We'll just say that.
Yeah, let's just calling people mid for no reason. It's just, I mean, you got to look at the fit, why it makes sense. We're telling you why it makes sense. You just got to listen.
It was actually a good one here from, was it? Guys, what about trading that pick? Pistons got the 31st pick too. That's an interesting one, man. The 5th pick in the draft. So I wanted to get to the draft as well after we got through free agency. I think we kind of wrapped that one. With that draft, man, that 5th pick, Rod said that he wouldn't be surprised to see the Pistons traded. He wouldn't. And when you talk about what you could do when you package that with like a player like Bojan, the Pistons could get some impact players. At the draft time is when cap sheets and things like that are a little bit looser. Certain things aren't locked in yet, so you can make some little moves here and there like we've seen the Pistons do before. We're like, where did they get cap space to trade for and sign not just Jeremy Grant, but 2 more first-round picks?
Right.
During the draft time, you're there and you got a certain amount of time to get things kind of together, release or holds on certain players and whatnot. What are you feeling, man, with this number 5 pick?
So there's a handful of players I like at 5, and quite frankly, to trade it, I know you hear that a lot, like trade the pick. My question would be to who? Who wants the pick? Because if you don't want the pick, then who wants the pick? Like Neil Rule always says this all the time, and it makes perfect sense. It's like I get the reason for trying to trade the pick. It is the best asset you have right now. And if you could package Bojan in the 5th overall pick and you can go get an all-star player, I'll listen 100%. But who? Who's taking that pick and who are you getting? I need the deal laid out. I don't have anybody off the top of my head. Jaylen Brown, that deal ain't getting done for Jaylen Brown. You're gonna have to throw an Ivy. Like there's certain play. I get just saying trade the pick, but what does it look like?
Yep.
That's the question. Personally, I'd stay put. You take a player at 5, and there's some good options. Jarris Walker, Whitmore, one of the Thompson twins, Taylor Hendricks, my guy who I've been advocating for. But regardless, there's plenty of good talent there. I would much rather just take someone at 5 and then go spend your money in free agency. Maybe you make a trade, but regardless, when people say that, trade the pick, it's like, for who? Like if you tell me right now you could trade the 5th pick for Brandon Ingram, I'll listen. But is that realistic? No, it's not. It's not. So I don't really entertain it, but I get why people would want to trade it. I do.
Yeah. And honestly, it's something we entertain. Look, I'm telling you, I'm not going to blow everything at 1 p.m., bro. Definitely go and check out Rod Beard, myself.
I know you guys are preaching. I can't wait to watch that.
He dropped some stuff, man, on the Pistons free agency, some players. He kind of doubled back around on the topic that you all brought up on the Morning Woodward show too. And
what was it? DeRozan? I know. Tell Rod I'm sorry for that.
Let's
my apologies.
Well, no, you have to understand something.
Was he on board? No.
Listen, it's not about if he's on board. It's about what sense it makes, and that's what we discuss on Woodward Pistons platform.
Okay, I can't wait. I gotta watch it. I can't wait.
That's the reason why it came up, and it's just like, whoa. Let me put it this way: do you understand that the Pistons realistically could just sign Jeremy Grant for cap space and then trade Bojan for DeMar DeRozan? That lineup is stupid. That's what I'm saying. They have options, and then still draft somebody with the number 5 pick. That's what I'm saying. People aren't understanding. Troy Weaver could go completely nuclear. And all the reports are like, it's not like we're talking pipe dreams. These are things that are all kind of loosely reported. The Pistons have interest in Cam Johnson and Jeremy Grant, according to James Edwards of the Athletic. These are not like pipe dreams. Could Bojan be traded? We're all hearing that. We're all hearing it. All the beat writers, everyone's hearing it's a potential. We're not saying it's going to, but bro, how quickly they could just Troy could absolutely just
flip this thing.
And not with mid players or whatever people want to think. Mid players, to me, is what they've done in the past. Right. Like when SVG was here and he was getting like the Morris twins and such. Those are mid players. Jeremy Grant averages 20 points a game, bro.
40% from 3
on 6 attempts. What are we talking about? And the best defensive player, like a top 5 defensive wing, who's a better defensive wing than Jeremy Grant? If you can't come up with a name like that,
well, when healthy, Kawhi, but he isn't. But
we have to say when healthy.
Yeah, that's the true. Point. Paul, when healthy, like there's
So it's just like
Jeremy Grant's healthy.
I don't know, bro. The Pistons this summer, because you need a closer. You need that guy who can absolutely handle all of the pressure. Cade Cunningham is your guy. DeMar DeRozan definitely adds a different element. When you have a guy like a Jeremy Grant, it's just like, goodness gracious, the Pistons have the assets to go out there and add a top 5 pick.
Yep.
A closer, and a former All-Star in DeMar DeRozan or someone like him, he said, and a Jeremy Grant or a Cam Johnson. Things could get crazy. And then they could just go out there if a guy like Dylan Brooks or someone else's values fell off. I'm not necessarily, for the But I'm just stating, there are guys like that. I see him in the comments. So I was like, man, look, bro, we'll talk about it a little bit. But there are people who are out there, and it's just like, you know what? The Pistons can flip this thing on his head very, very quickly. Hey, shout out to Jalen, bro.
Jalen, the GOAT.
The GOAT, bro. Table Talk member. We're going to be getting some more content in soon. Some pretty interesting content as well. They said DeMar can't shoot, MTJ. The mid game is already taken care of. Okay. It's not about that. It's about the professional scoring of it all. You know, there's times when we put guys out there on potential and we're like, man, dog, if they could just think about that. How many guys who stated that? You're not doing that with DeMar DeRozan. I don't even need him in the mid. I just need those minutes where DeMar is just by himself. The starters are resting up. It like the Corliss Williamson role. I don't need it to be a center or a power forward, but just somebody who like a Jamal Crawford, bro. When the guys are just chilling,
hold up.
let it rock.
Hold up.
Let it rock.
Are you telling me you're going to trade for DeMar, who makes damn near almost $30 million, who's got, 1 year left on his deal, to be Jamal Crawford?
No. I'm saying when you want him to get his absolute buckets, I'm saying you play him within the flow of what this team has.
But could I argue Bojan's a better fit?
I don't know, because defensively, where do you play him? If you brought in if you brought in somebody like a Jeremy Grant.
Well, you're going to play DeMar at the 3. Oh, now you.
Yeah.
What?
You have to play him at the 3.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to. Stu would be the odd man out in this.
Yeah.
In this scenario.
I just hate the fit. And again, I get right now at this stage, you can't really argue fit, but also you can. Like, and let's be real here. You put DeMar on the Pistons, okay? And I asked Adam this question. Let me ask you this question, because I'm curious, because you obviously, as a basketball mind, I want to hear from you. Closing lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Cade.
Yeah.
Jaden. DeMar in this case. And let's say the 5th overall pick or a Cam Johnson. Let's just say that signing. Or Jeremy Grant, whoever. And then Duren. You got one guy you can rely on from 3. Is that not a problem?
I don't think that would be the closing lineup, though.
So DeMar's not even closing.
No. I mean, overall, we've seen the Pistons go. DeMar would be in the closing lineup, but I don't think that some of those other guys would. We've seen the Pistons go and put people like Isaiah Livers in the closing lineup. That they would play to their suits. They would make sure that if they need like a Cade, Ivy, DeRozan, Livers, and then a big who can shoot, they would play that line. They would play
even that. That means you have Livers as because again, Cade can shoot, and he's actually not a bad shooter. As Jaden Ivey showed something, but I'm talking about when those guys drive to the basket and they kick out, they need someone to bail them out. You got Livers. You're telling me.
Look, as a team,
and that's not to hate on Livers.
You
get what I'm saying?
No, I hear what you're saying. If that's what they're having to rely on, most teams who are winning are not relying on solely that. They may run into that once or twice, and you run that lineup once or twice. Any other time, teams like this aren't running into it, because we cannot negate the fact. This is what most people do with DeMar DeRozan. With options like this, they instantly go and they state why the only negative that they can associate with won't work. DeMar DeRozan's a plus player. DeMar DeRozan is going to have a positive. And I do believe that DeMar DeRozan, as a absolute NBA scorer, as a person who can draw free throws.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the component of it that you need. And his ability to play what I consider to be savvy NBA defense. That's a difference.
Yeah.
We sat here and we looked at Jaden Ivey for a whole year, and you got to understand, these players are still trying to take steps forward. We sat here and we looked at Bojan Bogdanovic. I heard people make all of this stuff. I sat here and I let people talk me off Jeremy Grant. And yes, we need Bojan Bogdanovic. And then everyone's sitting here like, bro, our defense got punched in the balls. It's just like, I can't do that type of stuff anymore. When I look at DeMar DeRozan from just a basketball standpoint, he's a freaking NBA all-star type of player. Look, if the fit isn't completely there, I get that. And he's not my first guy.
And he's not getting any younger.
He's not my first guy. This isn't somebody who I'm saying like needs to be a part of the fabric of the rebuild, unless he's going to
but it's an option.
Alter and change. But just if something like that happened, I honestly can see the fit. If
Dwayne and
if the coaches, that's what I'm saying. From what you're stating, if this was SVG, no. If this was Dwayne the first time, no. If this was any other of these Pistons regimes, I don't think that they know how to make it work. This is more or less like when the Pistons, when they went and got Rasheed, they didn't have space for Rasheed. They just made it work. They didn't. When you go back and you look at the 2014, they had bigs. They were stocked. They had a good team. They were one of the top teams already in the East. Already. Then they went and got Sheed and just said, bro, we're going to make it work. There were drawbacks. There were so many negative drawbacks during and around that time when they got Sheed. But then there were people who thought, but maybe who he is will overcome. So his positives will overcome the negatives that we believe. And I think that with the right team and with the right mindset, a player like a DeMar DeRozan, which is which is a qualifier that Rob put on there as well. A player like DeMar DeRozan, and that's what I put on there as well. I do believe he could fit. But it has to be something where he's coming in and he is absolutely about the team, absolutely about deferring to Cade Cunningham. And that's how it's going to work with any of these guys. You have to sign impact guys. The one thing that I will say about this with Jared, when he said, why are we trying to sign mid guys, is that we're not going to win with a roster of Morris twins and such. We're not. Like, those guys are tough. They're this, they're that. They can hit like an open three every now and then. But unless you go out there and get guys that the NBA is going to call fouls for, unless you go out there and get guys that the NBA is going to allow to 20 points, that matters to me, bro. We've seen this squad out here with players who can't reach or get over that barrier, and they can't, for some reason, draw the fouls. You look at a guy like Killian Hayes. I don't know, bro. I can see a world where it works. He's not a negative.
I could see a world. It's just like Star Wars. It's far, far away. That's what I see. And I don't listen. Okay, I everything you're saying makes sense. Okay, DeMar, in an ideal world, he would come here, he would take a step back, he would teach these guys, how to be professionals, how to close games. He could even be the closer at times when Cade's struggling, because mostly we know Cade's going to close a lot of these games.
Yeah.
I don't see, although you're right, it's a possibility. I don't see it, nor would I love it. But if we're talking about, listen, this is, and I can't hate you for it or hate Adam for it, because we talk about go getting good players. You gave me somebody.
Oh, and it's a realistic aspect.
Yeah, you're giving me somebody that, and it can work. I just don't love the fit. That's
the caveat too. Let me make sure that is put there too. We discussed that with Rod as well, that the caveat was this. It wasn't like Adam was like, oh my gosh, that's the dream player that I want.
Right. We're
sitting here saying, when you look at what team will actually sit down and say, you know what, I have a need, you have a need, this works for both teams. Like you stated earlier, well, who is it? Where are we going to get X, Y, and Z? What trade partner are you getting? Like, that's what I'm stating.
Right. Like, realistically,
this is more or less talking about what would be a realistic scenario to bring more talent in, to give yourself an opportunity, whether it's sending more talent out later or finding a way to make it all work to make this team improve. So yes, that's why the conversation is a little bit more nuanced, because it's like, from a basketball fit perspective, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. There are players that we can bring in here right now and kind of fit the position better, including Bojan Bogdanovic.
Complement Ivy and Cade
better.
That's like my idea. When I look at the offseason and how to construct a team around these two guys, I look at kind of similar to what the Suns did, man. Like, just getting guys that can defend and can shoot. And then you have Duran or whoever it is.
Bojan Bogdanovic as a stand in the corner. This is my problem here. And this is what I'm saying.
But he also can't defend.
That's my thing.
That's the problem.
That's my thing. How many threes does he have to make up for the fact that every time he comes in, everyone says, bro, barbecue chicken dinner? That's what I'm saying. That doesn't happen with DeMar DeRozan. We have to take the impacts both ways. And if we're not, then I think that a lot of people are kind of short-sighted with their basketball outlook. Not that DeMar DeRozan is a fit, but we have to understand that there is two sides to this thing. There's the defense and there's the offense. And DeMar DeRozan is not a slouch on defense. He's a player you can play out there and know we're not getting punched in the balls on the other end of the court. We put Bojan out there, and for every game we can go, oh, look at this 20 points. We were like, bro.
But he gave up 45.
He's giving up so much, and teams knew that they could do this.
Right.
And so it's like, when you factor in something that's realistic, who are the teams that have needs? We can dangle certain things plus a Killian to the Chicago Bulls, who have just lost Lonzo. I don't know, when I look across the spectrum of the NBA, where else can we go and pluck somebody of a caliber like that for minimal assets? I don't know where that's at. And that's where the conversation with DeMar came from. In terms of overall fit, no.
I just don't like the fit, man.
Yeah, no, I would rather rock with our number 5 overall pick. I think that this draft is so deep that in between what you can get out of number 5 and number 31, or if he uses that 31 to get back up,
right,
I believe that you could put enough ready to play guys. They might not understand everything right now, but like we said with Ivy last year, if Cade's healthy, you don't have to know everything right now. You just have to be able to come in and be someone who can, if you're a big man, a part of that triage, kind of fit that. And if you're a guard, or if you're a wing, we need defense and we need shooting.
And length.
Period.
Length is important. Yeah. Like, especially on the wing, to your point. Like Jeremy, he fits at 6'9", over 7-foot wingspan. That's why I bring up Hendricks a lot. 6'9", over 7-foot wingspan. Cam Whitmore, athleticism is important too on the wing. They're going to need that. So plenty of opportunity to get better. I don't mind just staying put like I said, going and getting a Cam Johnson, a Jeremy Grant, and your 5th overall draft pick. I'm not on the, you have to make a trade for somebody, because once you get desperate, you could make a deal that you regret. I don't want to be in that position. I want them to continue to have leverage, kind of like what the Cleveland Cavaliers did. They made the play-in and then traded for Donovan Mitchell. The Pistons haven't even made the playoffs yet under, Troy Weaver. So let's just stick with that. Get there, and then we'll see what we need. Right now, just go get who you can get for HC in the draft, and let's do this thing. Let's go.
Yeah, yep. Because they're going to do something crazy. We know that this team has to make something impactful, whether it's adding I think what I like to call reputable depth. That means that, you could depend on those guys when they come in, or if that's going out there and getting an impact star, which will take away from some of your reputable depth, but you'll have guys that you're still supposed to go out there though and play 40, 45 minutes if we need that. That's why you go out there and you get players like that. So it will be interesting to see what the Pistons do. There's a lot of different ways they can go, because they could go out there and just take a flyer on a guy like a DeRozan based on the connections they have. They could go out there and take a flyer on a guy like Jeremy Grant again. I think that, Cam Johnson is probably the best pick or the best fit if the money's right.
Right. And the Nets don't match, of course.
Right. If the money's right and you don't have to give up too much, because I feel like if the Nets are trying to get better, that they would want to instead do a restricted free agency. Sign and trade type of thing. And then that means that the Pistons actually have to give up assets to get Cam Johnson rather than just money. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how the Pistons pull this thing out. If there's anybody that can do it, again, Trader Troy, trust in Troy. He's consistently done this year after year after year after year that he's been a Detroit Piston. I mean, I don't know how many people he's acquired since he's been here, through the draft, through free agency, through trade, but it's been a lot, and he's consistently flipped his roster over and over and over again. That's what makes me comfortable. We sat here and people were worried about the coaching search. They were worried about how long it was taking. I think that they got everything under their control.
Yeah,
I really do. It just works. So y'all don't have to worry about, if they pick DeMar, it'll be for the right reasons.
No, we'll try to find those reasons.
I agree with you. I think the Pistons are in a good position because of the fact that they have Ivy, Cade, and Duran. I really do.
Yeah,
because they have
100%.
just coaches that they've just kind of brought in, because they do, though they fail, because they do have the number 5 pick. That's going to pay dividends for them. I truly believe that. And their cupboard isn't bare. Killian, Isaiah Stewart, Isaiah Livers, Marvin Bagley, Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, James Wiseman, their cupboard is not bare. They just have to make sure they bring in the right amount of talent to complement, and the number one word, internal growth.
Absolutely.
Or phrase, I guess.
That's everything.
Yeah. Anything else, brother?
No, we nailed it. I got to go edit.
Yeah. No, look, appreciate you all being here. Definitely please smash that like button to support. Going and support from Half Court as well. They got a great pod dropping with James Edwards. You know what time it's going to be dropping today?
A couple hours. Actually, today, a couple hours.
Dope. And definitely at 1 p.m. on this channel, we got Rod and myself at the Woodward Pistons podcast, and we got the table talk tomorrow. Bring your questions tomorrow. Bring your heat. Bring your free agency options. Bring your draft choices. We're trying to talk about it all. And also,
if you're feeling courteous, Jeff and Gentry show.
Check
it out. Me and Michael Gentry, Red Wings beat reporter for Woodward Sports. We break down everything, mostly football related and some hockey and basketball as well. But check it all out, man. I think it's you have it as a suggested channel.
Yes.
On and we have you as well. So check that out if you're feeling generous.
Yeah. Hey, please, man, support them. Gentry does great work, and I like to support great people.
Absolutely.
One of the best things that I've encountered since my time at Woodward Sports almost 2.5 years ago, bro. It's crazy. It's just good people. Like I said, Jeff was somebody that I met when we were doing the first draft show at Imagine Theater, and he was all the way at the top, in the top row, just chilling.
Just minding my own business.
Mind his own business. I don't even know what position you had or didn't have within the company. I know you were an
intern at the time. Yeah, intern.
I don't even know if you were on any shows at the time, bro.
No, I wasn't.
I just knew someone was like, hey, he likes basketball. Just go up there and make sure you say what up to him. And it was just from there. You could tell the grateful spirit. Somebody that I was like, you know what? I want him in my circle. And when I met Gentry, it was kind of the same thing. So I appreciate guys who not only take their craft serious, but they take being good humans serious as well. And that's Jeff and Gentry. So definitely check them out. Check them out. Definitely give them a subscribe, a
Yes,
like.
sir.
Stay tuned to the content. We're gonna try and bring you all the best content we can.
And by the way, Thursday, I'll be making an appearance. Table talk, baby.
Let's
do
rock.
it. Let's do
rock.
it. I'm locked in.
Let's do this, brother.
Let's do it.
Hey, look, y'all. Till next time. Yeah, man. Look, bro. Let's just do a drum roll for Rod.
Let's do it.
Done it in a while.
Oh, yeah.
He was cooking today. We got the pod. So let's go, man. Hey, yo. Shout out to the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard, as always. We're gonna have to get that dinner soon.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We got to chop it up.
Yeah. All right, y'all.
I got to clear up some rumors about being Hollywood. Rod's spreading these false rumors. Love you, Rod.
Let's rock, man. Let's rock. Hey, till next time. Hey, Money Train James, Doug, man, Mr. Ray, Rap. I'm seeing all the people.
Mr. Ray, yeah, the man, dude. Mega Hustle,
everybody.
MTJ.
Tap, man. Shout out to you guys, man. Rod Love 313. Seeing everybody. Jared, man. I always love when he's in the comments, man. Papega Jones. Shout out to you, brother. We're gonna talk soon. We will talk soon. I appreciate you all.